Can you hear me? I would like to thank Discourse for inviting me here today, and the Royal Society of Medicine for hosting this important meeting on the National Health Service and its future. Like many people, I have both a personal experience of the NHS and an interest in it that goes beyond the personal and is core to our view of a civilized society. In 2009, I went to the United States to receive the Presidential Medal of Freedom from President Barack Obama. At the time of my visit, President Obama was campaigning for the Affordable Care Act in the face of intense political opposition. While it is not the sort of free, publicly funded and provided care we have in Britain, the Affordable Care Act means that insurance companies must offer an option of a basic level of health insurance, with lower premiums than before. At the time of my visit, an editorial was published in the U.S. financial newspaper, Investor's Business Daily. The editorial stated, people such as scientist Stephen Hawking wouldn't have a chance in the UK, where the National Health Service would save the life of this brilliant man, because of his physical handicaps, is essentially worthless. Unfortunately for Investor's Business Daily, I got to hear about this. I refuted their claims, saying that not only am I British, and very much alive, but in fact wouldn't be here today if it were not for the NHS. There are two ways to think about a national health care system. One is that the most humane and civilized system is one in which all people are provided for equally, based only on their needs, no matter who they are, rich or poor, young or old. I believe this, and have made public statements, that we must prevent the establishment of a two-tier system, with the best medicine for the wealthy, and an inferior service for the rest. The other way to think is that a health care system needs to be organized in the most efficient way, so that there is as little waste of labor and resources as possible. International comparisons indicate that the most efficient way to provide good health care is for services to be publicly funded and publicly run. The more profit is extracted from the system, the more private monopolies grow, and the more expensive health care becomes. For that reason, I have also made public statements that the NHS must be preserved from commercial interests and protected from those who want to privatize it. So, these two things coincide. The most humane system is the most efficient system. This means that when politicians and private healthcare industry lobbyists claim that we cannot afford the NHS, this is the exact inversion of the truth. We cannot afford not to have the NHS. A publicly provided, publicly run system is the most efficient, and therefore a more cost-effective way to provide good health care for all. What is to be done? A physicist like me analyzes a system in terms of levels of approximation. The NHS, and the question of how to provide good quality health care to everyone, is hugely complex. That doesn't mean that we cannot understand it in broad terms. To a first approximation then, one can see the situation facing health care in this country in terms of forces with different interests. The future will be determined by the relative strength of those forces. On the one hand, there is the force of the multinational corporations, which are driven by their profit motive. In the US, where they are dominant in the healthcare system, the corporations make enormous profits. Healthcare is not universal, and is hugely more expensive for the outcomes than in the UK. We see that the direction in the UK is towards a US-style insurance system run by the private companies, and that is because the balance of power right now is with the private companies. On the other hand, there is the force of the public and of democracy. Opinion polls consistently show that the majority of the public agrees with me and is in favor of a publicly provided NHS and opposes privatization and a two-tier system. So the public already supports the core principles of the NHS as the fairest system, and so what the public needs is the knowledge that this is also the most efficient and cost-effective system. As I understand, many here today, including a group called Bring Back the NHS, are part of a growing movement to empower the public with exactly that knowledge, as the NHS reaches its 70th birthday next year. Thank you for listening.